Agree with that. I agree with that. We are live. We're live, the live version, the morning after, the night that was. Thank you so much for being a part of the Starr and D'Amico show. Following every Montreal Canadiens game, here we are in the aftermath of what was a wildly entertaining, fun-filled, action-packed, superstar-led Montreal Canadiens comeback victory in a 5-4 final over the Seattle Kraken in a little bit of a teeter-totter game, big shout out, of course. Let's introduce friends to the show. First of all, our best friend to the show is Marco D'Amico at MN D'Amico Online. And then right there with him are our friends at cheapesttshirts.ca. What does that mean? If you're looking for the best quality tees, hoodies, aprons, merchandise, I want you to head over to cheapesttshirts.ca. It features top brands like American Apparel, Columbia, Russell Athletic, and even more. And guess what? There's no minimum orders, sizes from small to 5XL. And when you order today, they ship today, and most deliveries will arrive tomorrow. So support us by supporting our friends at cheapesttshirts.ca. A big shout out to McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel. Your home for Montreal Canadiens action, Marco, and your home for our upcoming live show. How about that?
A week's time, everybody. The 22nd of October.
Let's go. 7 to 8 p.m. Come join us live. No reservations. Roll up. Make sure you tell whoever's at your table that you're here for Starr and D'Amico, because it's white glove service all the time in my favorite pub to go to in Montreal, at McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street. And we're very much looking forward to our first live show next week, Marco.
Absolutely. And again, those that are watching right now, be sure to comment McLean's in the comment section to be in for the draw for Habs tickets that we'll be doing live at McLean's on the 22nd.
100%. Shout out to Evie and Chuck and the all-star staff at littlebearonline.com across from Westmount Square. They care about your pet's needs as much as you do. And of course, the best realtor in the business with over 25 years in the business, Remax Platine. It's the one, the only. It's Catherine Prince. You can find her website at Catherine with a K, Catherine Prince. .ca is the website. Looking to buy or sell your home, or even looking for an evaluation on your current home, you can trust the guidance and the expertise of Catherine Prince. What a game last night. Marco, you were in attendance, following along online, seeing the reaction, obviously. And it's been said countless times, so let's make it one more. Nobody in the business comes close to what the Montreal Canadiens do. Like, Vegas is a great city to visit. They put on a great show, but it's not Montreal, man. They hit on all points, didn't they, last night?
The still image.
Yeah.
The still image of Ken Dryden's mask on the net destroyed me entirely. Just what an absolute, thank you so much, Paul. What an absolute class move. A lot of people were like, hey, we haven't seen anything for Ken Dryden. Man, was it worth it? It's just a simple, beautifully done ceremony. Loved what they did. And then, for all the flack that they've gotten over the last couple of years about their lackadaisical intros and stuff like that, I found yesterday was great. I think the fans enjoyed it more than we did on the press box, because we couldn't hear the songs that they were coming out to because the fans were just so damn loud, which is a great thing. But just the atmosphere was stupendous right from the beginning. And I think from there, the fans just did not stop. I mean, we're going to get into it. There's, after the fact, when we were talking to the players in the dressing room, there were a couple of fun comments in regards to the passion of the fans. And oh my goodness, especially Ivan Demidov had lots to say about the impact of the fans last night.
100%. And I like this right away. It's so funny, brother. I got rid of my blue check mark, and I had the most viral tweet, with the possibility of where they were. And I was watching the time, because I was told by someone very close to the opening ceremony that they had timed this out by like 7:19 and a half. They were going to be done. And by the time the anthem was done, and by the way, beautiful rendition of that female quartet. That was spectacular. The sound was very, very good. But they were done by 7:19, and the puck dropped like just before 7:20.
Exactly. And they had already had a deal with the NHL that they were going to allow the Canadiens to go over the 7:19 without a fine up until 7:30. So that was a confirmation we got from rights holders yesterday, because the NHL was just like, yeah, it was look, it was a really, I think last night was very indicative of what the Canadians can do.
Yeah.
One of the things that I really enjoyed really was, up until last night's game, Seattle was one of the only other undefeated teams in the NHL. And, they play a heavy game, does Seattle. Not the fastest team, but, I think they had something silly like 25 block shots.
Yeah.
It was insanity how much they were stopping in front of Joy Decord. And I found the Canadians to be relentless in that department. So, there's a lot to unpack in this game. But the first thing I really want to bring to everybody's attention, we're going to talk about Ivan Demidov. We're going to talk about Laine Hudson.
Yeah.
But that top pair of Mike Matheson and Noah Dobson continues to be one of the best 5-on-5 pairings in the league. It's very early. I get it. It's 4 games in. But Noah Dobson has not been on the ice for a 5-on-5 goal yet for the Montreal Canadiens.
I'm glad you brought us in that direction, right? Because, we've been charting the ice time. I love how it's being distributed. We'll get into Arbor Jackeye, whose diminished ice time is noticeable to me. And I know the Chicago game was different, right, with the 10 power play opportunities, and Big 72 doesn't get out there really on the power play. He did it again yesterday, played 10 minutes. But just to get back to Marco's point and observations on the Dobson and Mike Matheson pairing, right? Both guys combined for 2 points. Dobson played over 23. Mike Matheson played over 25. And listen, there are a lot of times, brother, where, I'm right. And there are a lot of times where I don't get it right. And in 4 games, I was dead wrong on, I wasn't in favor of the pairing off the hop in preseason. Just to reaffirm my point at the time, was I was looking for a little bit more contrast, spreading the speed out on different tandems. But not only has the Dobson acquisition been worth the price that was paid and the contract that it was negotiated and doled out to Big 53, but it's made Mike Matheson, to me, such a better player. Remember how exposed he was last year? Just getting walked and playing too many minutes against the tough opposition without a good enough supporting cast. I mean, what are you more surprised at? How good the team has looked, how good that tandem has looked, or individually where Mike Matheson's game in a contract year, we'll get into that, how individually Matheson's game has looked after 4 games?
I think one of the things that made Mike Matheson such a polarizing figure for the Canadiens last year was the fact that he had to control the breakouts, right?
Yeah.
You had Laine Hudson on one pair, and sometimes Mike Matheson played on the same pair. And the Mike Matheson looked his best when he was playing with Laine Hudson. And I think there's a reason for that, is because he didn't have to take care of the breakout alone with Laine Hudson. Well, you have a guy like Noah Dobson now who, might I add, has the second highest, as we speak, controlled exit success rate in the NHL for a defenseman.
Yeah.
That's not nothing,
wow,
ladies and gentlemen. That means that the Canadiens are spending less time in their zone running after the puck. And how many times last year did we see this where they got boxed in and they were just cycled in the offensive zone? Not happening now, because Matheson with his mobility, Dobson with the active stick and elite positioning, putting themselves in positions to kill those plays and immediately do the counterattack. And what's beneficial to both players, because of where they came from their respective teams, is by putting them together, they're not zeroed in and double forechecked when it comes to their zone exits. Because, you're going to double forecheck Dobson, he's going to lateral pass it over to Matheson, and Matheson's either going to skate it out or pass it out. Mm-hmm. And then you've created an on-mad rush for being too aggressive on your forecheck. So it causes players to back up and give them space. And then that just adds to the success of their transition in that regard. So to me, it's a win-win in the way that it's being executed, specifically because, and this is different as well from last year to this year, the Canadian centers are playing lower in the zone, right? Suzuki's not at the red line by the time they're trying to do his own exit. He's still at the blue, giving them an outlet pass option. So there's layers to their transition that make that pair elite. And I just feel like, I watched Mike Matheson yesterday. The play that he made in transition to Laine Hudson, where Laine Hudson almost deked out Joey Decord and scored a highlight reel goal. the vision of Matheson on that
Correct.
play was just stupendous. And
Can
again, I was one of his biggest critiquers, so I am throwing him some flowers here. He simplified his game, and it shows.
Can I just say one thing I'm grateful for? I'm grateful Hudson didn't score on that.
Thanksgiving was last week.
No. I'm thankful that Hudson didn't score because I live next to the Bell Center. I don't need the roof falling on my house because that roof would have come off its moorings, come off its foundational structure, and I think it would have pancaked my house. So I'm grateful because it was that close. That would have been the NHL goal of the week, and it was only a Tuesday night, right?
Did you fall asleep before the end of the game? Because that Demidov goal.
No.
Oh boy.
Welcome to my busy season.
I know.
Yes, I get up at 3:45 in the morning. Hopefully you guys listen to me on TSN 690 with Connor McKenna, and don't forget Marco D'Amico, part of our team, every Wednesday at 8:05 for his insights into all the Canadiens action all season long. Right, so multiple reasons to tune into TSN 690 to catch the three of us. But welcome to my busy season where I'm staying up. How could honestly, how can you forget about what we do, you and I on the Starr D'Amico show? Forget about that. I was born and raised in this market. My father was a Canadiens fan. I don't hide away from the fact that, yes, even though I have opinions on radio, I have opinions on YouTube.com. I'm not a journalist. I'm a talk show guy. And I'm still a Montreal Canadiens fan. Like, I'm a hockey fan first and foremost. If you're a hockey fan, how the hell do you fall asleep to a game like that? And so let me take you into the first period for a second. That was the fastest I've seen the Montreal Canadiens play collectively. They fed off the energy in that building, and it carried to their feet because they were flying. I've never seen the team play that fast over 20 minutes. How wildly entertaining was that vibe and that energy and infectious to the guys on the ice?
I think you'd have to be a corpse to not come out guns a-blazing after that intro and the energy from the crowd. You have to be a corpse. Like, I'm sorry. I was on the press box. I'm covering the team on the ice, and even I wanted to go through a wall. That's the energy that the Canadiens fans and only Canadiens fans can bring to a game. It was sublime. It was playoff energy. And just being able to watch them do that. And, you talk about the speed. It's because they're playing with the speed of execution. Their transition game is so fluid now that there's less, rando plays in the neutral zone where they have to basically trench war it from the neutral zone into the offensive zone and begin to impose themselves, offensively. And I think back to Demidov's assist on the Alex Newhook goal. That was all about high level transition and speed. Well, yeah.
Well,
I'm surprised that the Bell Center didn't wake up Shaun.
When Demidov hooks up with Alex Newhook to get the party started, I'm sitting there on the couch watching the game. I'm going to reenact my reaction. This actually happened in my house. I'm watching the game. It happens. I'm like, I maintain this, and I don't exaggerate it. I think right now he's Demidov top 5% in the NHL today with his hands. What he's able to do, how he's able to react. We're watching something special here, Marco.
Yeah, well, I think that's kind of the point here, and we were kind of bringing this up. There was a clip that was put out by our colleague Karen Haynes from the Hockey News, where you actually see at practice Martin St. Louis working on the exact play that Ivan Demidov did, where he just rushes down, plays on the circle, and then kind of does the cross ice pass. It was phenomenal.
Here, let me play it for you.
Yep.
Boom.
And so, on the subject,
Yeah.
because it's still looping, on
Yeah,
the
I know.
subject, Martin St. Louis spoke about this
It's on my
during.
computer.
It's all good. Martin St. Louis spoke about this during the post game, and he said, when you're a left shot and you're coming down the right circle, you
Mhm.
have the benefit of being able to break. Everyone keeps going because they're trying to catch you at full speed. And then you have created yourself an open passing lane. And because your back is to the boards, you're in a passing situation with the forehand facing the player that you're looking to hit with that pass. And that player simply has to tap it in or take a shot, which is exactly what happened with the other left-handed Alex Newhook coming down the left side. And so that's the kind of play that he drew up in the same way that he drew up the Cole Caufield play, where he makes that extra play on the power play when he's at the circle, cuts in to the middle. Sorry, I'm moving from the mic, but cuts into the middle and then takes the shot.
Yeah.
Same kind of creating that hesitancy, opening up the shooting or passing lane. That is essential to the growth of Ivan Demidov.
And I mean, there are so many examples now, and I love that. We'll work on that. As far as I was unaware, but when we look at MSL, right? I mean, there's so many examples of him and his coaching ability. Whether it's Josh Anderson being recast in a different role, finding a level of comfort, even though we're waiting for Josh Anderson to really get going through 4 games, right? Brendan Gallagher. Look at Gallagher again. Where was he? Front of the net. Where was Kirby Doc? Front of the net, right? Like getting people not only to buy in to what you're showing them, and then the money point is Demidov watching MSL saying, hey, listen, think about this when you're in this situation. And I'll even take you back into the playoff round against Washington last year, where in between games, right? Remember that clip that was floated around at practice where that was the first time like we've seen an agitated Martin St. Louis where he's banging his stick on the ice saying, hey, this is where the game is won. So you need to be more compete and choose your hard, as we know now, in this kind of area. I mean, we'll get into Gordon and Hughes getting a re-up for 5 more years, but one of the best moves this organization has made is the relatability factor and how they found Martin St. Louis. What a gem he's been for this organization in their path to rebuilding.
Yeah, from a personal perspective, definitely. I think also from a coaching perspective, strategy and whatnot, he's definitely grown into the role, right? I think he was getting out coached at the beginning, which is totally normal. Didn't have any pro coaching experience, but I feel like just as he was as a hockey player, he was really good at getting better, and learning and picking stuff up. What I've enjoyed is just how he's helped other players add layers to their game.
Sure.
And so, we were talking about, Cole Caufield adding layers to his game. Like, look at how physical he is. He's 5'7", and the guy is leveling guys that are like 6'1", 6'2", and coming out with the puck in board battles in the neutral zone. Caused 2 takeaways, right? I don't know if they were both recorded. I think one was, but counterattack goes back the other way. Offensive zone time for a good 30 seconds that almost resulted in a goal, So like you're seeing layers to his game to the point where I think I saw someone suggest potentially putting him on the PK. I don't think I'd go that far, but he went from being a quote defensive liability to someone who, is able to help the team at 5-on-5 by not simply just putting the puck in the net, but by playing a complete game. And so we talk about Cole Caufield in that regard. I want to bring it back to something relevant last night, which was the play of Alex Newhook.
Sure.
Because I really feel like since he's been put on the PK, he's almost found confidence by playing on the penalty kill and being good at it. And it's translated to his 5-on-5 game. And I felt like, you saw that. You talk about speed, right? This is a guy that brought speed the whole game, right? I felt like Oliver Kapanen was the trailer on that line, and it was really Demidov and Newhook firing on all cylinders, right? And so I really enjoyed how his newfound role is giving him more confidence at 5-on-5, speed and execution that we didn't see from him last season in this same situation.
And so, like with that in mind, Patrick Laine, I see, some of the comments in the chat already. I think it's a little harsh on Patrick Laine. I thought that was one of his better games. I mean, his ability to protect the puck in the offensive zone was on fine display. Clearly, the highlight where, that power play that ends with the Demidov-Laine tandem out there on the ice and Laine's nice feed, and then the ultimate finish by 93. He played over 10 minutes yesterday, Patrick Laine did. And let me ask you a question I was asking the boys on TSN 690 this morning. I want to get your take on this. Does Patrick Laine has he earned the right to move up? And no, I don't mean this in a disrespectful way with what I'm about to say next. Maybe play with a little bit more skill as opposed to the more complete player. Is it time that Martin St. Louis maybe gives him a few more minutes, and get him with some more offensively skilled players? Or is it more along the lines of he's in the right chair at the right time and the coach is utilizing him properly after 4 minutes?
I was confused when it came to Patrick Laine. Really, because at some point in the third period, the Canadiens began to shorten the bench, right? We saw Gallagher go back to playing with
Evans and
with
Anderson.
Evans and Anderson.
Yep.
We saw Newhook and Doc with Demidov, right? And ultimately, the Canadiens ended up scoring on that power play, and then things are tied, things go back to normal. I'd be interested to see if those line changes carry over to next game and what that means for Patrick Laine. Like, if you put like Newhook, Doc, Demidov, does that mean we're going to see Budzik, Kapanen, Laine?
Yeah.
Which, to me, not exactly a terrible outcome, except for the fact that you have three shooters on the same line. But I think that Zachary Budzik has the acumen and playmaking ability of a center that he could still be the playmaker on that line.
Sure.
But I feel like he'd be able to do the dirty work and go into the corners and hit and be present in the high danger areas to create more space for a guy like Laine. So potentially we see that shake out for next game, or Martin St. Louis doesn't want to change a winning situation and goes back to the same things that we saw at the beginning of the game. The only thing I would say with Laine is his 5-on-5 play was no better at any point in this season than last night. He did not hurt this team in any way, shape, or form.
Agreed.
Defensively was 2 takeaways. The only thing that's utterly frustrating about watching Patrick Laine is when the puck is on his stick, he's in the offensive zone, unforced errors that lead to a loss of possession. And I think that's where everybody loses their mind with him. But when he simplifies his game and doesn't get into his head, like we saw in the Demidov goal, like everybody and their mother wanted him to shoot. I think I saw I had a popcorn bag almost fly by my face from people in the stands yelling at him to shoot the puck on that play. And he was patient, saw Demidov alone in the slot. And, what are you going to do? Are you going to take the shot? Or are you going to give your team the best opportunity to score? And that was a selfless play. And Martin St. Louis brought it up during the press conference where he was like, not only did Patty make a great play to keep possession because they were about to get the puck dumped out, he kept the play alive. He found Demidov. Demidov finished the play with Gallagher Greco-Roman wrestling in the crease with somebody else.
Yeah.
And, the tying goal is a tying goal. But again, I stress this. Minutes prior to that Patrick Laine on the fourth line, Canadians rare time that they were being hammed in their own zone. Patrick Laine with an active stick breaks up a pass that would have been a sure one-timer 6 feet away from Montembeault's net, who was looking a little shaky yesterday. He was the one that, broke up that play, went back the other way. Canadians started to build back momentum after having lost the lead. So I'm not saying he's a perfect player by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think he was a negative player for the Canadiens by any stance yesterday.
So you brought up Sam Montembeault's name. Let's talk about the Canadiens' number one goaltender, right? Because obviously I'm watching the game, following along on Twitter, posting occasionally, and I even kind of see it in the chat a little bit, not so much here as I did on Twitter last night. I don't know what the expectation is, honestly. I mean, are we thinking that Sam Montembeault needs to post 1,000% save percentage every single night for you to be, complimentary. I thought Sam Montembeault was not the reason Seattle got back into the game in this teeter-totter affair yesterday. If I'm being nitpicky, the fourth goal to me was maybe something he wants back or a cleaner look at. But when you go through it, they score on the power play. The Jamie Alexiak goal, he's got, 4 bodies in front of him. Maybe he can get a little bit lower in his technique to see his way through a screen like Carey Price was so great at doing. But other than that, I and you know me, if I'm out here defending Sam Montembeault, kind of says something, right? I'm a big Jakub Dobeš guy, but to me, I thought it was a little too harsh, a little too unrealistic in terms of the criticism directed at Sam Montembeault. Now, with that being said, brother, Nashville on Thursday, that's a Jakub Dobeš game all day. It's just part of the rotation. So that's how I see it anyway. But walk me through your thoughts and impressions on Sam Montembeault yesterday.
I think there's at least I'd say at least 2 goals that he would have wanted back. But ultimately, like when you face 22, 23 shots against in a game, you can't be letting in 4 goals, right? Like that's just not good business. That's, less than 80% success rate when it comes to your save percentage. And I get it. Seattle, that's what they do best is they get these, they just mass shoot and get into a position where they can jump on rebounds or take control of the chaos in the slot. And they were opportunistic in that regard. And it's hard for a goalie to be able to reposition in that situation. But as we've seen from the Montreal Canadiens in the past with Montembeault, whom a lot of Canadiens fans credit with being too good during their prime rebuild years and it cost them the opportunity to draft higher in the draft. Well, this beginning of the season, we're seeing the Canadiens have success. Outside of the Detroit game, in spite of what I would consider to be average goaltending in this situation. And so I think the benefit in this situation here right now is if the Canadiens are playing like this at 5-on-5, what's going to happen when they get consistent goaltending out of Samuel Montembeault once he shakes whatever funk he's in? And that's the way I look at it. Is if they won,
like you think he's in a funk?
I think since the beginning of preseason, it's not been the same Montembeault. Like, yes, he made some good saves yesterday, but the puck tracking is off. There's something there, and I'm not saying, I'm not gonna speculate on that. I don't have information, but what I would say is, sometimes with a goalie, it's you got to get hot, right? You got to get your groove going, right?
Agreed.
So that's why, I'm not really worried about Sam Montembeault, but I think it's fair to say that he hasn't played his best hockey to start the season. And that's totally normal. And the fact that you can say that and still be 3-1, I think is a luxury, So I don't necessarily look at it from an antagonistic point of view. I think that he can certainly get better at tracking. I think he could certainly get better at covering his glove hand. I think, Book was out on that. And, to me also, I don't think he was done any favors on 2 of those goals. The power play goal, I believe that Schwartz scored on that pass from Shane Wright.
Correct.
Unfortunately, I don't think, and again, I'm not going to start beating on the player here, but Arbor Xhekaj, when it came to coverage on that penalty kill goal and that Jared McCann goal, those 2 goals would have not gone in at all if proper coverage was executed on both of those plays. And unfortunately, that's why Xhekaj was benched. So that's why I say, I don't necessarily think that the percentage is his fault because of the way that plays broke down. But there were some goals that I've seen Montembeault stop, consistently in previous years. So I just like to see him get back into his groove, because if he's on his game, the way that the Canadiens played last night, this is a top 3 team in the Atlantic all day, every day.
And just to get back to it before we move on, do you see it the same way in terms of the rotation in how the Canadiens have structured it? Jakub Dobeš Thursday against the Preds, who got a 7-spot dropped on them yesterday, and Caden Primo's Maple Leaf debut.
Yeah, still 7-4. And obviously 7 against, but like the Leafs did against the Canadiens, 2 empty netters. They just love their empty netters in Toronto.
No kidding.
And tell me about it. It's when they play their hardest. And you look at the way that the Canadiens. Sorry, that one came out. I try to keep those comments to a low.
No, I love them. Keep them coming.
But they suddenly, it's like fire to a fly or to a moth. So one of the things I'd say is I would assume and I would think, knowing the Canadians at Samuel Montembeault, that they would want to give them the Rangers on Saturday night. That's that at home.
Correct. Agreed.
First Saturday night at home.
Yeah.
You always want to give that to your first. And the Preds, not a top team. Dobish had played very well against them last year. I remember. I'm really sorry, guys. It's not like me. It just came out. I'm sorry. Don't quote me on this one. I
love it,
guys. But ultimately, when you look at the way that they would map it out, because you also have to factor in that they have to think about the road trip that comes in after that. There will be 2 back-to-back games, and you don't want to go 2 weeks without giving Dobish a start either. So I fully expect Dobish tomorrow, and then Montembeault on Saturday, and then the 2 will split Edmonton and Calgary.
It's amazing. The New York Rangers get shut out on home ice again last night to Connor McDavid
in their centennial season.
Remember what happened here, eh? The centennial season here.
I've been saying it since the beginning.
I know.
They're going to be like the 08-09 Canadiens, except they won't make the playoffs.
Yeah. So you got the Rangers getting shut out again on home ice. It's 3 in a row. Then the Nashville Predators, the opposition here on Thursday, tomorrow night, they just, as we just finished talking about, lose big to the Toronto Maple Leafs, their first loss of the season. The Brady Tkachuk-less Ottawa Senators are in Buffalo today. 7:00 game between Ottawa at Buffalo in Western New York, where the Sabres are winless. Jerseys are being thrown on the ice. The Sabres have a total of 2 goals combined in 3 games. I mean, I choose to read into a marking of where I think the Canadians are at hockey mature-wise, where maybe you look at soft opposition and you bury them. Like the Canadians for the last few seasons, that's fair to say, they would sometimes play down to the level of the opposition. How do you feel about the Canadians this time around? And that we're not going to be talking about that, you and I, playing down to the level of the opposition as we react to the game on Sunday morning and then Tuesday morning as well.
Without being a Debbie Downer, I felt like they played down to Chicago on Saturday. Right? I felt like if their power play clicked even remotely close to what it should be, that game would have been done by the second period with the amount of power plays that they were given.
Yeah.
So I'm not to that point. Seattle is a team that they were taking seriously because they were still undefeated. Right? So that's why wow. What time?
No panic yet.
No panic. Absolutely not. And in
it's
fact,
Laine Hudson 2.0. It's Laine. I don't mean to cut you off. It's Laine Hudson 2.0. That's all this is with Demidov.
It's exactly what it is. So I'm not worried at all in that regard. What I would say, when I'm worried about seeing them play down, it's the game against Buffalo. That's the game. Yeah, that's the game where I'm very, very interested to see if they break that habit, because the games against Nashville, they always get up for it because Nashville plays a smash. That's why they call it Smashville. But they always just play a smash mouth kind of style that kind of forces you into the fight. Yeah. And the Rangers on a Saturday night, I mean, you need to be a corpse not to get up for that game. But it's the sleepy Monday games against a sleepy team right now in the Buffalo Sabres. That's the one that worries me. But again, this is all speculative. We have to see what happens, right? I felt like if they would have continued to play their game against Chicago, and if they were a little bit more opportunistic on the power play, yes, they got 2 power play goals, but 20% still not good enough when you have 10 penalty in your favor. So to me, I'm
bring the fire, man. Shit on these Leafs. Let's go, man. Let's go. I'm here for this all day today.
I actually really enjoy Easton Cowan. I loved him with the London Knights, so I'm not going to say anything bad about him. The thing that I did enjoy though was Sportsnet being like Easton Cowan's first NHL point, and you didn't even see him touch the puck on the replay because it was just a 2-on-1 that Matthews sunk with Matthew Nyes. So I kind of giggled. I was like, poor kid, man, gets his first NHL point, is barely in the actual clip of said tweet. But I think Easton Cowan's going to have a great career in the NHL, whether it's with the Leafs or otherwise.
Well, guess what's happening? We're talking about the Monday game against Buffalo coming up. That will be the 4th and final game of the Canadiens' current home game, 4-game homestand. Nashville tomorrow, Rangers on Saturday. The Buffalo Sabres, as I mentioned, they're hosting Ottawa tonight. They host Florida on Saturday, and then they come to Montreal on Monday. Like, it's not out of the realm of possibility that this team is going to be winless by the time they roll up to Montreal. Like, I think Ottawa beats them tonight, and Florida's Florida. So, and Tage Thompson and Laine are already kind of like making some interesting comments. Jerseys being thrown on the ice. It's a watch party time to me.
All the comments now. Go get Tage Thompson. Go get Tage
sure.
Thompson. Go get Tage Thompson.
Here. Right?
Sorry, I'm not supposed to swear on these things, but
sure you are. I mean, as long as it's not crazy.
No, it was crazy. Hell no to that proposal. Hell no.
You know, it's funny. I'm glad that I put that comment up. It wasn't it just by coincidence, because we were talking, you know, like off the air today about Juraj Slafkovsky, and I don't want to be too harsh on the kid, right? But like, looking for a little bit more personally, right? But let's just move on. And you and I have spent some time. We did a redraft of that draft year, where and you watched Shane Wright yesterday, and Shane Wright to me too was like, barely noted. Wasn't an impact player, you know. But Logan Cooley, Lane Hudson, maybe the best player out of that draft. My pal Mitch Gallo thinks that Lane Hudson would probably go first overall if we were to do a redraft, right?
It's between those two. It's between Cooley and Hudson. Yeah. But I stress, watch out, because there are other guys that are standing up now. Frankie Nazar, who I had 6th overall that year.
Yes.
Right? Frankie Nazar is having a great year. You look at Marco Kasper in Detroit, having a phenomenal start to the year for Detroit. He's, in my opinion, their most consistent player. Thank you, Nicholas. You know, there are a lot of other guys that are stepping up. I mean, I feel like Simon Nemec is gonna get his thing going. When it comes to Slav, I mean, for me, it's the details, right? Like, I don't really care about the points, but you know, that Caufield goal where the puck comes out to him doesn't happen without Slafkovsky crashing in and banging the two Seattle players that were battling Suzuki for puck. Without Slafkovsky coming in for the pressure point, right?
That's fair.
So, like, to me, it's the details. It's, you know, you see him intercepting pucks in the neutral zone, using his stick to block passes, being effective in the defensive zone as opposed to being a passenger on the blue line going left and right. Like, you're seeing an evolution in his game. Those habits have a habit of translating into offense after a certain amount of time. And I'm not really worried. The top line to me at 5-on-5 hasn't been uber effective, in my opinion, as you've seen them in the past. I feel like they're going to get their mojo going at some point. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that they're also being used as a shutdown line. And so, you know, when the lines are recalibrated and the bottom line, the fourth line becomes the shutdown line once again, I think that you're going to see a little bit more of an offensive push from those two. But I would definitely, and I agree with this, you know, there were odd man rushes yesterday, 2-on-1s that we saw with Slafkovsky that he started. I would just like to see him be less generous.
He was generous on that ridiculous backhanded giveaway yesterday. And I guess if I were to argue with you here and debate you on Juraj Slafkovsky, I still don't know. I never pretend to be a scout, right? I never try to pretend to be an expert on the game of hockey. I've got my opinions like everybody else here on this channel, right? But use Ivan Demidov as an extreme example. I've already seen more flashes of what I would call brilliance out of 93 than I have out of Slafkovsky. And like, I get number 1 pick, maybe I got to get over that, right? But he was given big time contract, makes big time dollars. And I'll be honest, I'm not trying to be an antagonist. I'm not trying to stir the pot. I still don't know what his role is. And when you come at me and you're like, oh, look what he did on Caufield's first goal, like, good board battle for 14, good, you know, Slafkovsky's there. And I agree with you, right? But I mean, that's not, you know, I mean, it's a big role, but I think that role can be fulfilled by other players too. Like, I wouldn't say like that's the ultimate compliment for Juraj Slafkovsky. I'm just waiting to see who this player, show me a sign of who you're going to be, is what I'm basically what I'm saying.
I think he's shown you if you're looking at the details, right? Like, you look at Caden Gooley's goal that he scored against Chicago. That goal doesn't happen if Slafkovsky's not parked right in front of the net, blocking Spencer Knight's view.
Yeah,
right.
But but that should be his role. That's what he needs to do.
But that's what we're discussing right now, right? Like crash and bang, net fun presence, the guy who uses his physicality, uses his stick, quick hands in tight. What is kind of being asked of him, what people want to see is because he's a first overall pick, you also want to see the flash, the pizzazz that you would normally that you see from a Cole Caufield, right? And I feel like I agree with Nick on this 100%, is that what you're seeing now is him actually utilizing those physical assets to be able to create space, right? Because it's not simply what he's doing, it's what he's doing for others.
Yeah.
And again, I don't think that Cole Caufield scores that goal if Slafkovsky isn't aiding Suzuki. And this is not something he used to do before. Now it's become almost instinctual to see him against the boards and, usually coming out on the right side of those battles. And I think that is a skill that is so absolutely necessary when you have a Cole Caufield on the other wing, right? And I think that's a perfect complement. No disrespect to Ivan Demidov, but that's just not the style that you would necessarily expect. Florian Jacki needs to start scoring in the American Hockey League before he can do what Slav does in the NHL. We can get in on that because I watched Laval over the weekend playing against Manitoba. But when it comes to Slav, and I will say this, what's going to click for him, what I really think is going to click for him, is when he starts trusting his shot and when he gets that half a second shaved off his release. Once that happens, you're 25 goal scorer all day, every day, 60, 70 point winner.
To Marco's point, and I get the angle of it's more than just points, but he plays a lot of minutes and he gets a lot of power play time. So points, ultimately, you're a first line player. Points definitely, let's be honest, points definitely factor into, who
the
this
evaluation,
team envisioned you to be. So let's get back to the positive here. Canadians win 5-4, thrilling game last night. Open up the Bell Center, 1-0 verdict. Who cares? It's a Western Conference opponent. Who cares about the fact that they got a point? It's all good, right? So the Canadians out of the gate have won 3 of 4. The positive here, and we've touched on this a couple of times, right? Whether it's a live show or any of our shows on youtube.com that come out every day at 10 o'clock, right? We're going to have a great video for you tomorrow as I pick Marco's brain on the blistering hot start by Michigan and Wolverine player extraordinaire Michael Hage. Off to a very, very good start. We're going to dive into that, all the work that he's put in terms of rounding out his game. I think it's a must-watch for the diehard Hab fan that wants to learn a little bit more, because my partner over here had a chance to talk to Michael Hage. So that's out tomorrow. It's out now for members like our boy Fuck Sakes here. You see that little check mark? He's a member of the show. And that means you get instant access to all our videos, generally 24 or so hours before they release mainstream style. Last night, 11 players got on the score sheet. In Detroit, remember, the number was 12. The depth of this team has been flexing here, and we see how the minutes have been allotted by the coaching staff, right? So let's talk about this depth. A little quiet night for Zachary Bolduc, but a testament to maybe it's not a fluky start, because you're getting contributions, Marco, from lines 1 through 4, arguably.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things with Zachary Bolduc that I found yesterday is just simply that, they were good. There were opportunities for scoring chances there as well. It just wasn't jiving at even strength. And one of the main reasons for that, and I'll go back and say this again, they really did a good job of blocking those shots. And when Kirby Dach is the center of that line, you kind of know where the shots are coming from. So a lot of people kind of zeroed in on Bolduc. And I think that is kind of normal. Now it's up to him, of course, to diversify. But I think one of the things that really made it interesting when it comes to the way that he played the game was that even if he wasn't effective offensively in terms of scoring goals, he was pinball in the neutral zone, and he was everywhere in the offensive zone along the boards, trying to keep battles, trying to maintain possession, trying to make some space. I just feel like perhaps it's not the best combination at this point. And I continue to state this, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. Eventually, ultimately, inevitably, it's going to be the combo of Zachary Bolduc and Ivan Demidov that is going to be the heart of that second line. if the Canadiens are to be successful, long term. And until they get that number 2 center, that's what you got to run with. And then you just fill in the blanks, be it with Kirby Dach or Oliver Kapanen.
Hey, why don't you answer this question for a member of the show here, Mikey Sears,
Yes.
on Michael Hage and whether or not everything syncs up timeline-wise that this guy could play for the Canadiens.
Yeah, like Cole, like Laine. Laine did it too. Those 2 games against Detroit, not last season, but the season prior.
Yep.
So basically, the idea for an NCAA player is you have 2 options. So we have 2 cases where we saw 2 different things happen. Lane Hudson signed his entry-level contract at the end of his NCAA career and was able to join the Canadiens for the last 2 games. When you sign your entry-level contract out of the NCAA, you can't go to the American Hockey League. You have to play in the NHL after the trade deadline, right? We remember Cole Caufield. Cole Caufield was able to go to Laval. Does everybody remember why? Because the trade deadline was moved to mid-April because the season started in January. That was the only time where you saw a little loophole where NCAA players could be signed out of college and sent to the American Hockey League. That's never going to happen again unless there's another pandemic, which, good God, please no. So fast forward to now, Michael Hage's options. If he has a monster year in Michigan and feels like he's ready to jump ship, he can sign his entry-level contract and finish the season with the Montreal Canadiens, or he can do what Jacob Fowler did last year and sign what they call a professional tryout and only have his entry-level contract kick in for the following season so that he could go and play in the American Hockey League and not be stuck at the NHL level, especially, tell me about it, man. You would be an excellent hockey player if you could really.
I'm 47 years old, brother. I'm staring down the barrel of retirement.
Oh my God. I'm sorry. Maybe in your heydays, I don't know.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something quickly. I was a good defenseman. That's a position I played when I played organized hockey and moved all the way up through midget and contact. And I miss it to this day. It's my first sport I ever truly loved. But when I first got into radio, I would play on the Mighty Yucks, CJAD's hockey team. They were called the Mighty Yucks. Brother,
terrible.
I almost got fired on the ice by our goaltender, who was my program director, because somebody from a company I'm not going to name because they still exist, they got a little chippy. They got a little too in the blue paint for my liking, and I gave the guy the business. It was my nature. And as I was skating back up the ice, my goalie, my program director, is like, Starr, don't make me regret this. Don't make me. So I always play with an edge. I love playing with an edge, and maybe that's what I like. Maybe that's why I'm a little critical of Juraj Slafkovsky. Maybe that's the root of it. Thank you for being my shrink here, Marco. I appreciate that.
And anytime, bud. I charge by the hour.
Shit.
Oh shit. So no, just getting back to it. I just feel like overall, it'll all kind of fall into place. You just got to give it a little bit of time. So when it comes to Michael Hage, his season will dictate what happens. My honest opinion, first round pick, one of the top stars in the NCAA so far. You don't mess around with those players. You send them their entry level contracts.
Yeah.
And you see what happens. And again, like he's rep by CAA, JP Barry. They don't mess around over there with Pat Brisson. They go directly to what you need to do. And that is sign these players to their entry level contracts. So it's very likely that you see Michael Hage finish the season, but will he have that kind of a role hopefully by that point, if the Canadiens are in a playoff situation, they'll have clinched and it's not a last game of the season situation.
Yeah.
At that point, you can give him a game or two to finish off the year, get him his feet wet, and then ultimately you see what camp looks like the next year.
Let's put this comment up to do some Q&A here from our viewers, right? Trying to sprinkle it in as much as we can. Member to the show, Frankie McCumber. What's up, Frank? Frank was at the game last night, picking up on Patrick Laine. We talked about him. Arbor Xhekaj's ice time has been interesting to me. 10 minutes yesterday. I didn't like him on the fourth goal even on the fourth goal, I believe. I'm trying to go through memory here. I don't have my notes in front of me. Yeah. First goal too? Yeah.
On the penalty kill.
But what's Jaden Struble going to do? Like, if we're going to make the argument that Arbor sits out maybe Thursday, Struble slots in, What's the difference? What are we talking about? What are fans expecting to see from Struble?
I think Struble is just a better overall defenseman, but just doesn't bring the physical qualities that Arbor does. I think Arbor has a better shot, better shooting mechanics for sure, more of a point threat. I would give him that. Um, but I think if you had to give Struble the same role that Arbor Jacki had yesterday, playing on the penalty kill, the being able to be part of that quick transition kind of play, I think Jaden Struble's a better skater. I think Jaden Struble. I agree with Engstrom on this one, but I just don't think you'd be doing the player any favors by making him jump up like that. Yeah, exactly. I would also be of the same mind if the Rangers decide to dress Rempe. But the way that I see it, Struble to me fits more the style that the Canadiens want to play. And, with the way that Jacki has played the first 4 games, you have to give Struble an opportunity because you don't want to Michael Pezzetta this guy and go 10 games without giving him ice either. Like, you could do 2 good things, which is one is kind of give Arbor a break, send him a message. And at the same time, you give Struble an opportunity to run with it a little bit and see what he can do for you as well. So there are ways around it, and it's all going to be in how it's communicated. But in my mind, I think Struble slots in come next game.
Cole Caufield, electrifying release on 2 different fronts yesterday. I mean, there isn't an angle that this guy is unafraid to shoot the puck from. I mean, what an absolute snipe and unbelievable skill set from 48 too, right? Like Laine Hudson's maneuvering. I would love to know what Martin St. Louis was telling Nick Suzuki and the boys during that timeout. The smile on the coach's face was fascinating to me. And Cole Caufield, on the interview with Mark Denis after the game, is like, sometimes no plan is the right plan. And so get out there, recognize skill. He's on pace for 62 goals. Cole Caufield is this season. But more importantly, more realistically, is it just me, or does Caufield's release look faster, heavier? And obviously, I mean, he's on 3 goals, but I mean, the pinpoint accuracy he's known for, but that release looks faster to me.
Crisper, yes, much. And I would also say mechanically, one of the things that Caufield's really done a good job of, and he emulates Matthews on this, is when he takes his shot, he pulls his forearm in and then releases, right? And I think that requires a level of strength, especially in the shooting arm, right? Like if he's a righty, it'll be the right arm. You really see him kind of utilize the flex with a little bit more, I would say, not grit, but torque. There you go. A little bit more torque. And in that, it's just the flex will flip and you just see him absolutely ripping shots. And, it was fortunate for him that first goal went in. There were a couple of looks in the first 3 games that, he was really, really good at being able to get that shot off quickly. And I felt bad for the boards or the glass behind him because it was just like bouncing right out of the zone from like one shot. So the velocity is definitely there. The release is definitely there. Precision has always been there. And I think now what he's doing even better than he did previous years is he's finding the soft ice. And I don't mean like the non-polished ice, but the soft ice in the sense that he's able to find those areas, in coverage where he's not going to see anything happen. And that will allow him to kind of come in, take the defenseman by storm, get all nice and comfortable in the slot, and then you unleash shots like he saw. I think the biggest issue that Caufield had for the longest time was being able to get into those high danger areas. Well, now he's legitimately camping there.
We saw the Laine Hudson contract get announced and finalized, and, we've spoken on that enough. To transition into what was a brilliant piece of public relations by the organization, Ken Hughes and Jeff Gordon, part of the masterminds behind this Canadiens rebuild, were locked in for their future for 5 more years before the Hudson deal. They announced the Hudson deal. Then they announced the management deal. Mwah, chef's kiss. Bravo. Well done. I agree. A very smart play there. A little promotion, a nice promotion for Jeff Gordon, who becomes the president of hockey operations, up from the executive VP role. And to me, I'm going to make a little bit of a political commentary here for 1 second. We know the
Uh-oh.
Montreal Canadiens have restrictions, limitations on who they can hire. And I get it. You know, we live in the beautiful province of Quebec where the majority of people parlent en français. Et je suis très fier d'être un Québécois. Puis je me pense comme un Québécois, vraiment. And so I understand that. And I, as an Anglophone, born and raised here, I would argue with people that the Canadians, they should hire the best person for the job. But hear me out for a second.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they found the perfect compromise. I think Jeff Molson, and I want to tip my cap to the owner, because it takes a very secure person to realize, you know what? Maybe what we tried to do didn't work out. I'm not going to be stubborn. And there's a lot of dysfunctional teams in pro sports across North American pro sports. The Montreal Canadiens are not that. Okay, go look at Woody Austin and the New York Jets. Go see what's going on over there as a prime example, right? To realize maybe that Marc Bergevin had too much power in too many different areas that they say, you know what? It isn't a one-man job. And Jeff Molson said that yesterday at his media availability. It's not a one-man job, right? But the compromise here is looking at Jeff Gorton saying, okay, we brought in an Anglophone guy. Let's bring in Ken Hughes, who's from here, from Beaconsfield, parle en français. So you can have everything and serve the market as the market deserves to be served. And they just found the right pieces. Someone who was an architect right behind the New York Rangers, behind the Boston Bruins. So they got a real professional kind of manager there, right? And now they tag team it with Ken Hughes, who saw the business from a different angle. And I really respect the fact that this team was able to find those individuals, make those hires, and now here we are here with the deepest team, a team with forwards, with talent, with prospects, Marco. And the future is very bright. It's not delusional. It's not a fanboy take. It's a reality check.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately just going to hire a guy like Jeff Gorton was a desire and a strategic plan to win, right? You bring in that kind of experience and he could mold the general manager into becoming, a next level executive. And that's what he's trying to do with Kent Hughes. So I think the combination works. I kind of cringe sometimes when I see certain members of the media call it Gordon Hughes and Associates, but let's not go there. One thing I do want to say, is it's the chemistry between the two, right? Where like Kent will take care of contract negotiations and more like direct player relations, and Gorton is more the one, doing a lot of the scouting work and being involved in those meetings. So I think it definitely helps them. It's helped them be more efficient in that regard. It's helped them, pull out some gems in the draft at certain points. And I think, ultimately you look at the way that they're trying to build out this team. A lot of general managers, one-time general managers always felt like they had the sort of Damocles over their head, even if they had just started the job. Whereas I feel like if you bring in a guy like Jeff Gorton already right off the bat, you have so much runway, and you announce a rebuild, you got so much runway to work with. And they haven't been sitting there like Steve Yzerman has in Detroit, or like the ridiculous cast of general managers in Buffalo, just waiting on, getting all those top picks like Kyle Davidson in Chicago, right? Like just waiting for all of these top 5 picks to pan out. Like, sometimes it doesn't work out. Look, they just benched Artyom Levshinov, right? So like sometimes not always work out. So I like the fact that they were proactive in doing what they're doing. And I think that they were doing that. I speak to a lot of alumni that play with that are part of the Montreal Canadiens organization. They brought that important notion back to the team as well. It was something that was tossed aside by the previous administration. And they say it every time they meet with Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes at the beginning of the season, because they always have an alumni party. And they're very conscious of the culture of the Montreal Canadiens, the fans, the local fans, the fans that are out of town. And they coalesce their message and they coalesce their efforts to really speak to these people on all different planes. And I think that, to me, is what sets them apart just from a communication standpoint from their successors.
And maybe the additional chef's kiss to all this as the comments are coming in fast and furious. Thank you so much for being part of the live stream today. You can find us after every Montreal Canadiens game right here with a live breakdown every morning. and live videos, more videos coming out on the daily at 10 o'clock. And I remind you to join us at McLean's 1210 Peel, October 22nd, 1 week from today. We've got lots of giveaways, lots of prizes, including McLean's season tickets to go see a game in the nice Reds. And McLean's is also going to buy you the first round on the house, tickets on the house. The only way you can get there, though, is you got to be a part of the live show October 22nd from McLean's Pub, your home away from home at 1210 Peel Street. But Marco, apparently they're losing their freaking minds in Toronto. Steve Dangle on his show, losing his mind of what the Montreal Canadiens are doing, how deep they are, where the Toronto Maple Leafs, like let's be honest, man, like we knew it and we spoke about this, you and I, like it was going to be so difficult for the Buds to replace 102 points in Mitch Marner. It's not like Marner's doing crazy things in Vegas right now, but it doesn't change the fact that the window is slowly closing on the Maple Leafs window. And especially when you look at the contract, like look what Laine Hutson just signed for. Austin Matthews, pay me. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading something into all that maybe the Montreal model is looking pretty good, and the Maple Leafs Stanley Cup window is starting to close on them. If it was ever really that open,
I think the issue is they didn't really build a culture around winning and taking less, because while all these young kids were in their ELCs, what do? They went and signed John Tavares for $11 million as a free agent.
Yeah.
So then what do these kids do when it's their turn and they want a cut of the pie? Well, Mitch Marner held out all of training camp, and then ultimately Dubas gave in as a rookie general manager and gave him that $10+ million contract. And then what happens? Well, oops, Austin Matthews wants to get paid too, and Austin Matthews gets a massive contract too because he's outplaying Tavares. And that's normal that you're outplaying the guy that got $11 million. You'd want to get more. Now, obviously, they had more leverage than a guy like Laine Hutson, right? They were in 10-2C RFAs, so they were eligible for offer sheets. They were eligible from, I agree with this, that, and unfortunately a pandemic flattening the cap.
That's it right there.
That's what killed them. The pandemic is what killed the Toronto Maple Leafs. But what ended up happening is that, not only did it create a culture of the next guy up always wanted more, except for William Nylander, who, again, to me, has been the most consistent player of the core four since the beginning of their setup.
Yeah.
But he's the one that's always left money on the table. The one that actually wants to be there long-term all the times, constantly signing long-term contracts, right? And you get to a point now where, cap's going up. Austin Matthews is a free agent, at the same time as Connor McDavid. These are going to be guys looking for $20 million deals on 8-year contracts because the cap is going to be at $130 million by then. So what are you going to do if you're the Toronto Maple Leafs? Well, you're either going to have no choice but to pay him, or you're going to have to start another rebuild because you lose Matthews. Phone it in, unless by some stroke of beauty, genius, imagination, they're able to pry Connor McDavid out of Edmonton, which honestly, I would doubt. If he were to leave Edmonton, it would be a big market U.S. team, in my honest opinion, from what I've heard. Yeah. So I don't think that's the case. But when you see Steve Dangle and the crew at SDPN freak out, first of all, I'd like to point out this. Adam went nuts the moment he found out that Laine Hutson was rep by Cortex, because the Leafs fans have PTSD from the Mitch Marner negotiations because his agent, Darren Ferris, is the head partner at Cortex. And at the time where Marner's first contract was signed, Kent Hughes was the other partner at Cortex.
Exactly.
So they had a history in that. Now, the moment they mentioned Ferris, they assumed, that's it. Cortex is going to milk the Canadiens. This is why when you draft players, you don't just vet them for their on-ice ability. Yeah. You vet them to see if they're flight risks when it comes to signing contracts. And I'm not going to make any excuse for the Canadiens drafting or lack thereof, or the choices that they've made. But this goes into more picks than anyone is willing to bet on. And I guarantee you that vetting also happened with Ivan Demidov, especially with the fact that, you have a guy like Nick Bobrov that stayed with the family in his draft year. I don't think that Ivan Demidov is going to be a problem for the Canadiens to re-up either. And so when you are able to bring in both elite talent and players that are willing to buy into a culture, I'm not going to say it out loud,
It
Rod,
reads
but
like
if you
that,
did,
bro. I think Rob brings up, I think it reads like that very much, especially when you looked at the 2 summers, the summer Michkov had, the summer Demidov had, the perception of it all, it definitely reads like that.
I cannot comment on this simply just because, anyway, the information will come out when it comes to Michkov in terms of how things exactly went down. But what I can say on the subject is simply when the Canadians evaluated certain players, especially at the top of the draft, they were always looking for players that they knew were going to be elite and were going to be team first. And I think that's the biggest difference between the Toronto Maple Leafs rebuild and the Montreal Canadiens rebuild is that the Canadiens core is going to be absolutely covered. Suzuki, Caufield, Gooley, Dobson, Hudson, Slafkovsky. 7 players in the Canadiens core right now, right?
How much? 56 million for all that?
Thank you.
Right? $8 million? Come on.
56 million is going to be 60% of the salary cap right now. Next season, it's going to be 52% of the salary cap. Man. The season after that, it's going to be 48%.
Yep.
That is lunacy. When the Canadians had the core, when the Leafs had the core 4 assigned at $44 million, that was half the salary cap. More, it was 60% of the salary cap, 65% of the salary cap. It was nuts at the time, but they just assumed that the cap would keep going, and that's really what killed the rebuild.
Correct. And that's why, we talk about the buzzword for the last couple of weeks has been culture. And Martin St. Louis shed some light on culture, culture. And I want to talk about Mike Matheson here for a second, even though Austin's please trade Mike Matheson. So more on that.
This is a good conversation to have.
Indeed. But when we talk about culture, right? Martin St. Louis, when it was announced the Laine Hudson deal was finalized, not only was he happy for his player, gets the term and everything else, and you saw the reaction and went viral online, and the players reacted without knowing what the dollar amount was for Hudson, right, when they surrounded him at practice the other day. But what really brought it home for me was when MSL was talking about the type of person Laine Hudson is, how he's just he's just a good guy. He's a good human. Obviously, his parents did a great job raising him. He's not a cocky guy. He's a very team first, hockey first guy, right? And when we talk about culture, this is what they're trying to do here.
Ironically, if you talk to Cole Hudson, it's a very deferring personality. It's actually quite funny to watch them both together. When you talk about Laine, right, the Canadians in their negotiation, and I'm not going to touch more on this, but it's just a testament to the character of the player. Kent Hughes' trump card was Laine Hudson himself in these negotiations because he knew how much Laine Hudson wanted to stay in Montreal. I've said this for months. If Laine Hudson could, he would sign for 15 years right now.
Right.
But you can't. And in fact, as of next year, this time, you can't even sign for 8 years anymore.
Yeah, it's over.
So
7 years.
The Canadians absolutely wanted it on 8 years. He absolutely wanted it on 8 years. He didn't want this to go into the season. Nope, this is incorrect. And I will get to that in a second. So when it comes to Hudson, he absolutely wanted to get this done. He was the one that said, after it was rumored that everything was on ice and they were never going to talk, that there was emotional and this and that. Took 2 days. Laine Hudson was like, we got to get this deal done. On the Friday night, they basically got the parameters of the deal done. And by Saturday, it was ready to go. And then they announced it on the Monday. So Laine pushed this over the finish line. He is the one that wanted this. So it's good on him. Now, as to the comment of Ivan Demidov, the 7-year contract limitation kicks in September 16th, 2026. Demidov is eligible to sign from July 1st to September 15th, an 8-year contract. Yeah. And within that, an 8-year contract where the amount of signing bonus is not limited to 60% of the total value of the contract, a limitation that also kicks in on September 16th.
Let's bring this comment. Let's talk about Mike Matheson. We led off the show talking about how good the tandem has been with him and Noah Dobson. Noah Dobson, how dare you give Noah Dobson that much real estate to maximize? And there was Kirby Dach in front of the net, gets his first of the season. But a little bit more focus on Mike Matheson. I'd like to see the Montreal Canadiens get this done. I like the point again. If you missed it, Marco's on with Starr and McKenna Wednesday mornings at 8:05, and you brought up a comparable, right? And the
Well,
defenseman's
kinda, yeah.
name. I like in terms of the contract length.
Yeah.
I personally am also in favor of a 3-year deal with Mike Matheson. I mean, I'm going to ask you to speculate. I know it's not your comfort zone, but what do you think the team feels about Mike Matheson and them together? Because remember, in the summer, Matheson allegedly went to Hughes and Gordon, said, "Hey guys, contract. Hudson's deal's done. Gordon and Hughes' contract are done. Is Mike Matheson next?"
What did we just talk about when it came to Laine Hudson? The Canadiens knew they were going to get him at the dollar amount that they wanted because they knew the player absolutely wanted to be here. We all know that Mike Matheson wants to stay in Montreal. We all know that. They met in Buffalo for an hour to talk about how much he wanted to stay in Montreal and what the plan was, right? I don't necessarily think that trading Mike Matheson is 100% in the cards if he continues to play the way that he is with Dobson. But what I would like to see is a Matthias Ekholm-esque contract where it's, you want to stick around for 3-4 years, no problem, but make it team friendly, right? Sign $4 or $5 million a year so that we could afford to bring in, a star at forward. And by we, I speak for the Canadiens as I say this, bring in a star at forward. Hudson replaced his off. You see, I don't think that Gouli is at Matheson's level overall the way that Matheson is playing right now defensively. I really, really don't. And I do not believe that Matheson is less physical than any of the players that you brought up. In fact, he is the most efficient when it comes to hits vis-a-vis puck retrievals on the Canadiens defense. And he's the more physical of the two between Dobson and Matheson, 100%. Like, that's not even a question. I've spoken to NHL players that say that they absolutely hate playing down low against Mike Matheson. So I'll take their word for it. I understand the hate that a lot of people. Yeah, no, that's not happening. Also factor in, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Matheson has a no trade clause, and Pittsburgh is most definitely on it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Just putting it out there. When it comes to Mike Matheson, like, I get the hate, but you also have to understand. Oh, nice! This is awesome. One of the things to understand when it comes to Mike Matheson, if he's probably the guy I think that would be most willing to take a hometown discount to stay part of this. Yeah. And if you can get that guy in the $5 million, even the $5 million range on a medium-term contract, that's going to be like low-end number 4 money. And, you have an Adam Engstrom, you have a David Reinbacher, if you want to ease guys in, exactly. And I think that's the case, sir. I really, really do. I didn't know that he would be able to play to this level, right? Like, I thought that he was a good number 4 on a team and he was being overutilized. What I've come to maybe observe now, and mea culpa on that, is perhaps he wasn't being utilized to the most optimal way because maybe there was a player that wasn't yet into the lineup, right? Like, he and Laine were great together, I found. But I just felt like it was a problem for Laine because at 5-on-5, he'd always be covering for Matheson, right? So he wasn't expressing himself offensively like he would. With Dobson, I think that both are able to do that, though I thought that Mike Matheson was the more offensively inclined of the two, despite Dobson being quite good.
At least you can admit it, Austin. I love it.
Yeah,
we respect honesty on this channel at all times.
One thing I'm going to say to fans is, why would a team trade a bona fide number 2 center for a rental?
Well, this
is an NHL.
Point. Like,
this is an NHL 26. No one's going to trade you a 2C for an expiring contract.
Yes. But right? He's like, so like, what's the contract look like? He's at what, 4.875 Matheson is, right?
Yeah. But I mean, that's irrelevant.
Are we tight on time? I just want to, no disrespect. Are we tight on time or are you good?
No, I can go another 15.
So he's at 4.875 Matheson is, right? Like,
yeah.
A lot of people are like, oh, hometown discount. Everybody falls in line. Like, how badly do you want to be a Canadian? Like, Three
Yes.
times
I,
five,
no, no,
three
no,
times
no.
$5 million. I'm good with 3 times 5.
That's absolutely spot on. And if people are saying that in the comments, they're so spot on this. This is the leverage point that the Canadians are utilizing and will be utilizing in any contract negotiation with Mike Matheson, because Mike Matheson as a player has
That's
not
it.
hidden how much he wants to be here.
He's
And of
home.
course, Marc-Antoine Godin reported in the summer that he met with the Canadians in Buffalo during the combine and absolutely wants to stay in Montreal. So they're obviously going to use that against him in an amicable way to try and convince him to take a team-friendly, I want to win contract, and he's going to leave money on the table. Right now, he's playing like a $7 or $8 million defenseman. There is no chance he's going to sign a contract like that. But if you're able to bring him down to, like, I don't know, 5.5, I think you're in business, right? Because then think about this, and think about this calmly, ladies and gentlemen. 9.5 for Noah Dobson, 8.85 for Laine Hudson, 5.5 for Caden Gooley, and let's just, for round number's sake, let's say I just say 6 for Mike Matheson, right? So 9.5 plus 5.5 is 16, 6, 22, and you add the 8.85 for Laine Hudson, you're looking at about what, 31 million for your top 4. That's insane for the long term in terms of being able to cap that together. And then your bottom pair can just be eased in minimum salary or low end range salary, and you're flying, and you could spend the rest of your, at that point, probably $100 million on your forwards, something the Canadians have never actually been able to do. So I don't see this as a problem. It takes a massive amount of weight off of David Reinbacher. And if David Reinbacher ever gets to a point where he's better than Mike Matheson and those two go like this, then you're in a winning situation.
Correct.
But the money has to be right. That is the one categorical KPI that I cannot get away from. If he asks for the moon, which I'm almost willing to tell you right now he won't, then there is a world where you can keep a Mike Matheson and move out another player or a younger player that is going to have more value to a team that's willing to trade a 2C. And there you start to create the pretense of a trade package for a player that would put you over the top.
And then, you still have Adam Engstrom to incorporate. This guy's looking more and more NHL ready.
When you talk about a player to incorporate in a package,
that's it.
I personally love the guy, but you got to give to get in this league, ladies and gentlemen. You're not going to get a bona fide 2C, and this management team is not going to hope that Sidney Crosby is going to be available
and that's
in February.
I mean, there's been some pretty
y'all
consistent...
can hope.
But there's been some pretty consistent vibes around, like, that whole Pittsburgh thing. What's going to happen? What are they going to look like by December? That, the Penguins are, from what I've heard, are ready for players that are on the cusp of making the NHL, right? Like not Mike Matheson. They're looking more at Adam Engstrom than they are at than Mike Matheson, to make it a little bit more clear. And to me, to summarize all of this, right? We talk about hometown discount. We talk about the Canadiens foundation with 7 guys and the future 7 guys being locked in with an AAV to a man about $8 million moving forward. I mean, that is so desirable as the cap keeps going up and up and up with some conservative projections. It could go higher than than what we believe. We'll leave room for that, right?
It will, in fact.
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's conservative projections for the cap. So it just makes the gobbling of the percentage that much better. But to me, what the money point is for me, Marco, is, and I've brought this up before, when we thought maybe, Shea Weber, Carey Price, they were going to have this magnetic pull to bring players in. They build the South Shore complex in Brossard as another training site for these players to work out and train dry land or on the ice. I think all that maybe is true, but for the first time with this management, with this core, with the depth, with the talent, this is the most credible argument I could put on the table of, look what's happening in Montreal. Look at the Four Nations. Look at the home opener and the tributes last night. Like, you want to be part of something special. You want to be a part of something special, and I think this is what the Canadiens are doing, where it's not inconceivable to believe the Canadiens could, like they did with Noah Dobson, that they could land another big star.
So I love that you bring that up because what did we talk to Noah Dobson about last night?
What?
Why he chose Montreal.
And
And I'm not going to
elaborate.
get into the off the record kind of deliberation as to how the trade went down to Montreal and how he broke it down. But the main thing to keep into consideration, or the main things to keep into consideration, was he was very attracted to not only the Canadians as a market, right? This is the closest team to him in PEI, and he always loved coming to the Bell Center, but it was the culture, the fans, and it was the team and how that team is on a really sharp upswing right now, and that was something he absolutely wanted to be a part of.
Right.
And when he talked about initial performance, like how has it lived up to his expectation, I think is the question I asked him. And he said no, without hesitation. He's like, no, far beyond my expectations. No one can possibly understand what the impact of playing in Montreal is until you play in Montreal in this era. And I was just like, damn, okay. Career in politics much?
Yeah.
But uh, but it was genuine. And I think Noah really kind of like the pride he feels when it comes to being Canadian. Like, the a friend Arpan Basu was talking to him about, he has a golf course in the Maritimes. And when it came to, them, he's a member there, they have his jersey up, and he's still like, I wouldn't say like bitter, but like concerned about the fact that his jersey is
Yeah.
still an Islanders jersey. He's like, I want it to be a Canadiens jersey. I want to be known solely as a Montreal Canadian. And you're just like the pride that he had in that. And then the other thing I'm going to add to the point you just made about Montreal. Montreal is one of the leading candidates for the 2028 World Cup hosts, right?
Correct.
And that's something that was brought up by Jeff Molson because Toronto is out of the running. And this is confirmed not only by the Canadians, but the city of Montreal themselves are also involved in this. So, and the NHL is also considering bringing the draft back to Montreal in a very foreseeable future, possibly as early as this summer. So, Montreal as a market dropped a nuke on the hockey world over the last 12 months. And the whole world is paying attention now.
Mm-hmm.
And kudos to you guys, because it's just an absolute renaissance of hockey culture in Montreal.
Jeff Molson also shot down some of those rumors. I don't know if anybody saw them floating around online of a potential outdoor game at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, where if you're not from here, that's where the F1 race is raced every year in this country. And it's like, no, there's no plans whatsoever. Some rumors. And I think Marc-Antoine Godin was the one that put it to Jeff Molson, who, again, very quickly shot that down, even though the concept seems kind of cool on the surface. But again, good media availability from Jeff Molson yesterday, and what a way to open up the Bell Center last night.
And we're going to have a conversation about this when we preview Saturday's game on Friday. Yeah. But the New York Rangers just put Vincent Trocheck on LTIR.
Oh, okay.
Damn!
Okay. The Fiend's coming here, and absolutely, let me tell you something. I'm not, we don't partner. I'm going to be very blunt here. We don't partner with losers on this channel. What you see here these are the real deal. We just, Marco, you can back me up. I'm going to sound like a douchebag here. I'm going to sound like a douchebag. We've turned down money.
Biggest loser here, but I agree. Go for it.
We have turned down money. We don't, we partner with the real ones, the ones that we can actually see ourselves, like cheapesttshirts.ca. We're going to be at McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street, right? October 22nd, 7 to 8. You want to be there. You want to be there, right? Nicola's got your back. I got your back too.
It's all good, guys. That was so funny.
So McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel is where you want to be. You want to get your pet. You want to take care of your pet. I want you to go to Little Bear. You can buy your merch online at littlebearonline.com. They deliver curbside pickup. They're on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square. Chuck and Evie do a great job. No, McLean's Pub is on Peel Street, 1210 Peel Street. And if I could give you a menu recommendation.
Oh, no.
Go with a buddy. Tell your server, they've got great service at McLean's. Tell your server you're here for D'Amico and Starr, and have the butter chicken pizza. If you don't like it, how about this? If you don't like it, Marco D'Amico is going to pay for the meal. but I promise you're going to love it. I promise you're going to love it. And we're going to love seeing you all there, of course. So thank you so much for being a part of this. By the way, Nashville, a quick word on Nashville, right? They got their first loss. If you think the Canadiens' power play is bad, Nashville is under 6% on the season so far. They're under 6% on their season, but their PK is very good. Their PK's early blushes, granted, but they look okay, Nashville. What's your early read on the Preds tomorrow night at the Bell Center?
I mean, look, the Preds are a tough team because they're a very mature team, and it's in this situation, they have their legs early on in the season. I think it's more going to be December, January where we may see. You don't have to reserve any.
No,
it's
show
first
up.
come, first serve.
Get there early,
lots of tables. And just to confirm, everybody, we're going to be doing a live show from 7 to 8, but there's also going to be a watch party for the actual game. I'm not going to bounce the moment that the show is over. So there'll be intermission activity as well. Obviously, we're going to be drawing. And there will be a beer tower to be won on the spot for a lucky table. So don't worry.
I agree.
I definitely agree with this.
I agree all day, every day.
So
real ones go to La Poule Mouillée.
Yeah, exactly. So just to get back to it, there will be live entertainment in between the periods as well. Whenever there's a beer tower involved, I am there.
That thing's huge. It's huge. It really is a tower.
It does not matter. All you look at is the goal, and you complete the goal.
Yeah.
It's about bringing your game to the game. Oh my God, I quoted St. Louis. I'm so sorry, guys.
Yeah. Choose your hard, Marco. Choose your hard.
So, Jesus Christ. Just to round kind of this out before everybody decides to disconnect at the same time. For Nashville, one of the things at this point in time is that they're obviously not there in terms of synchronized in the way that they play. I find that they haven't really added to their roster. I think Brady Martin's been a fun player to watch, but I don't know how long he's going to play in the show all season. You already saw Vancouver send back Braden Coots. We'll see what happens with Brady Martin as well. But to me, I think that they're just missing that speed. They're missing that element of speed. And it may be less of an issue in the Central Division where you have a lot of slower but more physical teams. Like, for example, the St. Louis Blues don't necessarily play a speed game. Neither do the Winnipeg Jets to a degree. Neither do, the Minnesota Wild to a degree as well. That's why Frank Nazar is so dangerous in that division. He's a speed demon amongst a bunch of slow defensemen.
I know.
But when you look at them playing the Canadiens, look at the way the Canadiens played last night. If the Canadiens play anywhere near the same speed, they'll be fine. They just got
toast. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Well, I'm not going to go with toast, but they're definitely going to have a difficult time playing and trying to contain the Canadiens, especially as they overload coming off the wings. I really do feel though, we talked about this, a team that may consider blowing it up to a lesser degree. Okay, maybe not a fire sale here, but start siphoning off players like they did last year. If the Predators continue to slide, they're a team that's going to be very aggressive in trying to change things come American Thanksgiving again. And we all remember how that went about.
They're not dealing with Montreal anymore. They're dealing with the Canadiens.
Every team has a team that they shouldn't trade with anymore. Montreal, Colorado, right?
I know.
Just stop trading with the Avalanche.
Yeah.
Nashville trades with Montreal have always been really weird. Really weird.
No kidding. No kidding.
Tell me about it. So I just think that those two franchises should probably just stop.
Well, this is one of the longest lives we've done. I mean, I'm just having so much fun. It's great to connect with this awesome community, and we're happy, obviously, to be a big part of it. And we'll be here on Friday morning to recap the Habs and Predators as the Canadiens look to make it 4 wins in a row. Looking pretty good out of the gate, obviously. And tomorrow on the channel with a fresh drop at 10 o'clock, you see our pal here, The Fiend. He's got that little check mark. That means he's a member of the show. $2.99 a month. Cancel anytime. No commitment, really. And you get early access. We're going to have a full breakdown of the unbelievably hot start put on the table by Michigan Wolverines player and Habs 2C of the future, Michael Hage, as Marco had a chance to sit down, chat, and catch up with all the off-season work with Michael Hage and how it's paying off for him in the early blushes of another NCAA season. So that video will drop tomorrow at 10 a.m. You can subscribe now and get an early look at that. And then, of course, we'll be here Friday morning to recap the Montreal Canadiens and Nashville Predators. And as always, you can support us, and it means a lot if you support our sponsors, cheapesttshirts.ca, amazing brands like American Apparel, Columbia, Russell Athletic, all the sizes, men's, women, children, accessories, merchandise for a company outing. Order today, ship today, and they deliver tomorrow. It's a proudly owned Montreal company, cheapesttshirts.ca, fast, easy, and affordable. Shout out to Catherine Prince, certified real estate broker with Remax Platine, reachable anytime, 514-702-2474. Her website is Catherine with a K, catherineprince.ca, a South Shore and Montreal expert. Maybe you want to move a little closer to the Bell Center because it looks like that's going to be the place to be for the foreseeable future. And, of course, our great friends at Little Bear, Chuck and Evie and their wonderful staff. We've got that goodie bag ready for Marco and his kiddies at home because those folks at Little Bear, another proudly owned company, local here. We support local on this channel. They're proudly owned by a great Montreal family and amazing staff. Find them online at littlebearonline.com. They deliver curbside pickup. They're on St. Catherine across from Westmount Square, and I can't wait. We are 7 days out. 7 days from today, give or take, we'll be there at McLean's Pub, 1210 Peel Street in downtown Montreal for the live version. It's going to be our first ever live show with D'Amico and Starr. You better be there. I want to see y'all there. Come say hi. No reservations. Just show up. And I think, Marco, good advice. Maybe you want to get there early. Is that fair?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to be getting there early just to set up. So, I mean, I would do the same if I wanted to attend. That would be my thing. I would show up probably around like 6-ish just to make sure that you get a seat. There are a good quantity of seats and obviously 2 floors. And there'll be standing room, of course, because it's a pub. I mean, what are we talking about here?
Correct.
But definitely, if there's already a significant amount of people that have already confirmed that they're going to be there, so I just so everybody is there and everybody's going to be able to enjoy themselves. The show is going to be live on YouTube if you cannot attend.
Yes.
And I have gone through great trouble right here to make sure that we have the right equipment so that you can hear us even in a loud pub.
Exactly. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing everybody. Thanks for spending 91 minutes with us today. It flew by just like that. It was unbelievable. And I look forward to doing that tomorrow. Huh?
Already noon.
I know. Go have some lunch. Okay.
Panini time.
Panini time. Okay. Ciao ragazzo. Grazie mille. Thank you everybody once again for Marco D'Amico. I'm Shaun Starr. We love your support. The road to 20,000 subscribers. No. Whoa.
Speak for yourself. Yes. Yes. I will
Marco's
100% grab them out of the air and eat them on the spot.
I love you guys. You guys are the best, man. You guys truly are the best. The road to 20,000 subscribers begins with you guys. Cheers for D'Amico and Starr. Watch out for our Michael Hage video tomorrow at 10, and then we're back here live Friday morning as the Montreal Canadiens go for 4 in a row. Marco, peace.
Have a good day, everybody.